This episode begins with Johnny with a strange girl showing her his lab and pretending he is the owner of the lab, only for the system to expose Johnny's true side, such as playing video games. While Johnny plays and messes with the system, the strange girl touches a glove, an electronic one, and it starts to shine with flames and opens a gate. She gets sucked in it, and the system suggests calling Reed Richards for help. But Johnny refuses and goes after her, and a random alien bug crosses the gate and turns into a big monster. On the other hand, Reed is trying out a new technology and speaks to Susan on an earplug, but notices the skeleton, or the remaining of the bug that entered. Susan is disappointed after Reed had to take a rain check on joining her with her neighbors, only to be interrupted by the lights going on and off after she assured the neighbors of no villain attacks this week. Ironic. Meanwhile, Ben enjoys his snacks in the hallway. He gets stumbled by a big hole in the kitchen's wall and blames it on Johnny. Classic, but true. But then finds the electronic big bug in the fridge, and it yells at him with weird noises, digs another hole in the back of the fridge, and disappears. Back to Reed heading back to the lab to figure things out, and also finds several holes dug by the mysterious big bug, and then Ben calls for him to show him what he found. Ben tries to find the bug, and all of a sudden it appears from the ceiling, making another big hole. It seems like the bug is eating wires and cable to get bigger. On the other hand, the rebirth of another bug is forming behind Ben, then tells Reed to bring Susan with him and Johnny if available. Back to Johnny and the strange girl he brought home. They are in a strange place, probably another universe through the gate, screaming, and being chased by different giant insects and monsters. Johnny tries to burn them but is surprised that they eat fire, which explains the bug eating electrical wires. Moreover, they reach a dead end with massive houses and monsters shaped like insects. Johnny tries to comfort the girl that everything will be fine. As she sits down to rest for a bit, she sits on another monster, which was apparently hiding and shaped like a giant rock, and wakes up with her on top of it and runs away with her. Then Johnny chases after her, and several monsters knock Johnny out and corner him. Back to Susan with her neighbors, trying to figure out what is going on and why the lights are flickering. Mrs. Monet insists that there are monsters in the building and she can hear. Susan tries to assure her, but gets interrupted by the giant bug digging a hole in the ceiling, and screams go off as usual. Susan then heads up to the lab, and Ben is still trying to catch one of the bugs. Reed confirms to Ben that the bugs are from the negative zone, and then Reed decides to search for the mother that keeps giving birth to multiple bugs. Susan tries to contain them as much as she can, but they keep increasing. Reed and Ben split up and try to search for the mother. Ben luckily finds the mother. It is definitely bigger in size and surrounded by smaller bugs ready to hatch. The mother bug goes after Ben with her smaller ones, and Ben then opens a squash system to corner her, but she is eating it off of her. On the other hand, Reed is being attacked by the smaller bugs as he figures out they feed on energy and immediately turns off the energy around him. Susan then appears, and Reed goes after her and explains to Ben to lure them out by using energy to the lab, and then opens a gate to get them back to the negative world. Back to Johnny, still trapped in their world, trying to save himself and the girl. They found a hidden spot inside of a tree only to be interrupted by the big bug coming to their voices. Back to Reed in the lab trying to figure out how to move them back. Ben turns off the entire energy of the building, and the bugs immediately show up in the lab. Reed opens up the gate to the negative world and successfully sends them away, and Johnny and the girl return back safely. A missing bug appears in Mrs. Monet's fridge. A large boat moving across New York gets interrupted by a big monster from the sea, scaring everyone away. Namor appears from the sea and saves the sinking ship successfully. Namor then introduces himself to the people of New York and warns them that whoever goes into the ocean will face his wrath. Johnny and Susan luckily were there to witness what happened. Susan approaches Namor to discuss what happened and explains that people share the same land and water, but Namor is angry and accuses humanity of filth and wants to ban them completely. Johnny mocks and makes fun of him in front of everyone. Moving on to Reed in the lab, looking at pictures of mutations of different sea creatures, while Ben enjoys his snacks again. And then a call from the United Nations is asking the Fantastic Four to take action and aid against what is happening. As soon as the call ends, the system warns Reed that there was an incident near the harbor that involves Johnny engaging in a fight against Namor. Namor and Johnny fight, but apparently Namor is stronger than Johnny. Susan tries to meddle to stop both of them, and Namor seems invested in her powers, wondering how powerful she is to put a seal between them. Namor hits Susan and disappears with his creature into the sea. Susan and Johnny get into the water, hoping to talk some sense in Namor about sharing the ocean with humans. Susan and Johnny dive into the ocean to find Namor. Johnny freaks out every time it gets darker and darker. Reed and Ben take their plane to the harbor to find out what happened, only to be surprised by Susan taking the lead, diving into the ocean, and then Reed and Ben join them as well. A monster appears and goes after Reed and Ben's plane and bites down on the plane, but luckily and safely, they got out with a helmet of air on their heads. However, they are fighting against monsters in the ocean. Back to Susan and Johnny. They find Atlantis where Namor lives. Susan tries to talk to him and explains it matters for humans, but gets interrupted by Reed and Ben attacking them, and the fight begins between the three of them. But Susan's power becomes weak, and then she and Johnny faints. However, the entire place is locked, and water is drained so they can breathe. Namor tries to inform them that wherever humans go, they bring violence with them. He confirms they can return safely, but the ban on humans remains, and also Susan will have to stay. Ben enjoys some sushi under the sea. Johnny is freaking out, and Reed is discovering some book and tries to assure Johnny everything is going to be okay. Susan reveals that Namor wants Susan to be the ambassador of Atlantis, and it's the only condition if they want to save the humans from his wrath. Susan is considering it, and it appears she is testing Reed to see if he agrees. He agrees, and Ben mocks him for his idiotic way of thinking. Back to Namor where Reed goes against him, refuses the condition, and assures she is an important member of the team, but Namor is insisting she stays and threatens Reed. Johnny, on the other hand, mocks him and gets hit in return. The fight begins again between Namor and the Fantastic Four, and Namor opens the gates again, fills in the room with water, and continues fighting. Susan had enough and stops everyone and goes against Namor. He then decides to re-evaluate the situation, agrees on her terms, and gives her credit. The Fantastic Four wins against him successfully, and all the sea creatures return to Atlantis safely, and the Fantastic Four return safely as well. I really enjoyed these two episodes. The electronic bugs were the cherry on top. I mean, eating wires and consuming energy, wild and fun. And for the second episode, Namor is a great character, but his arrogance may be his issue. However, giving Susan credit for her powers was a nice touch, and I would like to see more of him interacting with the Fantastic Four, but on more peaceful grounds. This brings us to the end of today's video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel to get more videos like this one. Your support helps us grow. And tell me, what do you think of these two episodes? What do you think will happen once the Fantastic Four finds out there is one bug remaining in the neighbor's fridge? Do you think Namor may revisit the Fantastic Four again just because of Susan? Will this be a new start of a relationship between them? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of them. And if you're watching till now, thank you. I'll see you in another video soon.